Allow me to tell you a story about Philadelphia. Many years ago, the region was once an industrial powerhouse, a world leader in sea import and export thanks to its extensive waterways. The original harbours lay smack bang in the middle of the region, utilising close connections to coal and stone mines, oil fields, farming and forestry industries. But with growth came change. As more technologies advanced and the region's rail infrastructure was developed, the ports were moved to a more convenient location, and the once great heart of the city lay disused and abandoned. But now begins a major project to make use of this prime source of real estate to facilitate more housing, entertainment and office industry. Let the gentrification begin. So today we're going to be kicking off a massive redevelopment project of this peninsula out here. Now obviously we have this abandoned old industrial waterfront out this side, which may be a bit of a hint as to what's to come over here. But generally the theme I want for this is an idea which came from Sambor, huge shout out to you, which is a gentrified area. An area which once was a huge industrial hub of the city, which has now been converted into businesses, residential housing, things like music venues, which I'm going to be touching on a little bit today. So it's going to be a huge project. It's quite a substantial area and we're going to be taking it chunk by chunk, starting off today with this little end down here. And the main piece of inspiration we're going to be using today is the Salt Shed in Chicago, which was an idea that came through from Hayley Seifert. Big shout out to you. Thank you so much for this point of inspiration. So as you can see from these images, this is what the Salt Shed is. It's a music concert venue which has an indoor area and this outdoor stage area as well. I'm guessing it once was Morton Salt Shed. We can see it here on the riverfront in Chicago. So this is Morton Salts, which is now this incredible music venue. And let's take a little look around. So we've got this first off huge warehouse shed, which we'll definitely be recreating. We have a little bit of graffiti along here, but we'll see what we do with that when it comes to it. I'm using a slightly different asset. Obviously I don't have the perfect Morton Salt asset within the game. Come on, asset editor is all I'll say there. So we have this nice car park design out the front, and I'm also noticing it's really black tarmac, which I kind of want to do something with. So obviously been modernised and reinvented out the front here. We've got very similar to what we saw in the TV studios in terms of a divider for our car parking area. We've got this old loading bay here as well, which I'm not sure we'll be able to get that in curved, but potentially something we can do with that. And then we come through into the venue here. So we've got these lovely red brick buildings, which I'll be using some of the northeast commercial assets for this. We've got like a food and drinks court area here with different stands and tables. There's obviously a whole load of backstage stuff here. I mean, this looks like bins, maybe, not sure. Little bits of trash, some props, extra tables, that sort of thing behind there. We've also got this amazing scaffolding entrance out the back. We do have a little bit of grandstand seating here. We've also got this kind of like control booth, I'm guessing for the lighting and the sound guys. It's an interesting place. And then back here we have the outdoor stage. So obviously we can't do anything with the indoor stage, but we'll definitely do something with our outdoor stage here, including a kind of backstage area that we can see here as well. I'm not really sure what this is all about. I think it looks a little bit dodgy on Google Earth, but it is kind of a scaffolding roof to it when I looked on just simply Google Maps. But yeah, this is the venue that we want to recreate, and the reason for this is that if you look around this waterfront in Chicago, it is quite a gentrified area. Like, we've got big open bits of concrete, which we'll definitely be adding as we go, but we have things like this, you know, old big industrial buildings alongside train tracks here too. We've got slightly more modern red brick buildings. I'm guessing that's being converted into some kind of office there. And then we've got things like this over here, which you can see, like we've got the old quay walls in here, a bit overgrown. And then we've got this huge modern development on the other side of it. And we can see this all the way along here, where we've got all these red brick buildings that have been kind of smartened up and converted. Like, we've got trees along the edges of the roads here. And then we've still got some of that functional industrial units as well. So it's a complete mix. And I think this is a great point of inspiration to start off our gentrified area with. So yeah, focusing mainly on our kind of version, our recreation of the Salt Shed. So the first thing I want to do is get in the key. And thanks to the latest update, we now have actual keys without fences and all the rest of it. So yeah, let's go nuts with that. Now, I'm also thinking as well that I'd quite like to kind of utilise one of these pillars. And I didn't show this off on Google Earth actually, so maybe I'll flash up a picture. But there was a road next to the salt house which looked like it used to be a bridge over the river. So I'd kind of like to make that this case here with this wharf and kind of create another wharf sort of opposite it around this point, which is obviously aligned to that and pointing out in that direction. So I kind of would like to work to a sort of 90-degree angle from that. And it doesn't have to be super perfect or anything at all. So we'll just kind of draw in our key like this, and it's going to look super odd for the moment. That's fine. And then we'll shape the terrain around it. And then we just simply need to upgrade our key by removing the relevant walls. Hopefully we can get it in this side now. Yes, we can. And there we have got our key. It's not very equal in height, but we can make do with that. And that's now opposite this one. So that is all good. So let's just use a little bit of Move It to align these. So I did use the key with the rib pattern because I feel like it looks a little bit more industrial here. So that's what we've gone for. So yeah, that gives us an area here to work with. Let's just check the terrain here too, because I do want this to be pretty flat, and it's actually going to end up quite a large area that we're using for this. So let's just smooth this all off. And there we go, lovely. Now we do have a bit of the water pipe sticking up there, although it's not really noticeable from the surface, only in build mode, so I'm not too worried about that. And we'll tidy this up later on. So the building that I do want to use for the main salt shed is actually the art forum from the Leisure Venues pack. Now I feel like, because we're going for this kind of warehouse style venue, I feel like this has the look we want for it. Now it's not perfect because there's like 2 ridges to it. If this was cut in half, it would be absolutely perfect. It's got that peak in the roof, which I think is kind of similar to the actual salt shed. So this is why I'm going for it here. I did also note as well that it's kind of like not perfectly equal to the quay, so I'm also going to go along those lines and position it in like that. Now I am putting in the actual art forum building here, and we're going to put in some pedestrian roads around it to make it so that that is actually functional. But then on top of that, I would also like to find the shell of it in our vanilla ploppable buildings and just extend it a tiny bit so it's a little bit bigger than what it currently is. And this is actually relatively easy to do with this building because we can just align the archways up on the side of it. And I'm hoping by putting that in, we're not going to destroy the functionality of the original building. But yeah, that generally looks okay there. And then of course, because the salt shed is white, we are going to recolour this using the recolor mod to white. And there we go. So this is going to form the basis of our salt shed building. Our arts venue building, which is actually an arts venue, ironically. So hopefully this will work quite nicely. You can actually see inside. That's interesting. Oh look, there's even stadium bits. Is there anything in the main building? Oh, okay, we won't look in there because it's not set up to be an art venue, but there's stuff inside, which is pretty cool. So that is that. Let's now get in a bit of a road network for it. So like I mentioned, I want this to be a pedestrian road into here, because I'm actually going to hide this within some ploppable buildings, I think. I was really keen on making it actually functional for the purposes of this build, so that's what we'll do there. Then we'll bring this back out, trying to get it a little bit parallel to that quay here, and that can form our entranceway at this point. And then we want to bring a road up this side. And we're going to have a nice big 4-lane road for this because I think it's going to be needed. We're actually going to have quite a few residents on this peninsula and businesses, etc. as well, so I think having a larger road facilitating it is going to be important. And then we can also just bring out a small road down the side of the building onto this peninsula here. So let's actually turn snapping back on. We'll get that at a nice 90-degree angle, and then we'll bring it out onto the peninsula. We'll tidy that all up with a lot of detailing later on, so it won't look exactly like that now, because that is fairly rubbish. But there we go, that sort of gives us the formation of it. We need to hook it in this way as well. And I'm also looking at this highway, and I'd like to modify this entrance a little bit so that we've got some more connections on here. So in this direction, when we're coming this way, there is no way to get on and off the highway at this point. So I'd like to make it easier for residents to get off at this point. So that's what we're going to add in here. Let's start off by extending this road up to here, and then we'll join in our 4-lane road. And then at this point, we're going to add in a large roundabout of some description. I think this one will do nicely. And then we can have the highway slip roads coming off of this roundabout and connecting into the highway. So we'll just do a small 2-lane connection like that, and then we will grab our slip roads. Okay, so that is nicely hooked in there, and then it's pretty easy for them to get out onto the highway this way. And then the only other point is the ease of access onto the highway in this direction, which we could add another slip road at this point, which I think we will do. So we're going to come straight out of here, and then we're going to try and bend it fairly gently around the hill to align back into the highway at this point. And then I think what we'll do is add an extra lane in here, just so that is a little bit smoother. And we, of course, need to get onto traffic and stop whatever this nonsense is from happening. And there we go. So we can build around that to make that look a little bit nicer, because at the moment it looks fairly pants, but that is the road connection in. Now let's just talk about the car park very quickly before we come on to everything else. So I'm going to do it with an alleyway road. I'm going to draw it up to the front here. We'll leave a little bit of a border for some nice pavement work and that sort of thing. And then I'm going to try and imitate a lot of the markings that we saw on Google Earth here as well. So we'll bring that out to here. I want to get rid of all of these crossings. I don't want to make these like major intersections. Definitely get rid of the traffic lights there as well. So it's just a small turning point for each of the venues. We're going to widen this out a little bit so that we don't have the median in the middle of the road here. And same goes for this side as well. But that'll do pretty nicely. And then we're going to use Dome's car parks. Now, the reason why I didn't just use the alleyway road with the parking along it is because I want to do those decorations inside the car park area, which I think will look pretty cool. Now, we can't get diagonal in the right direction that we actually want for this side of the road, but that's okay. So we're going to just use the regular parking for here. And then I also do want some of these chevrons along this side, so we're going to add those in, and we'll follow the edge of the road here and then out this way as well, like that, and that'll just give us an area that we can follow round with our pavements and with our curb detailing there. So now let's dive in with our curb networks. We'll also use Gaga XM's soil surface in here with a few little plants, and then just finish off the front of the building. Okay, so I think that worked out pretty well. I actually used one of the like colourful black surfaces to put essentially a black surface all the way over our road here, which has worked pretty nicely, and then using this concrete surface over the top of these hatch marking net lanes has also worked pretty well in this space here. So yeah, I think that's come together pretty nicely. It's nice to see people actually arriving at the Arts Forum as well. Quite excited by that. And this is why I wanted to have a functional building in here. We're going to have more functional buildings, of course, as well, but I did want to make sure that we do actually have activity in this area rather than it just simply being a prop build. We want to add to the city in a functional way, as well as it being, hopefully, pretty cool. Now, one thing I do want to do now that we've got this in is actually upgrade this to a small pedestrian street, which I think will just be a little bit more appropriate for here. We don't really need this super large one. And because it's connected in both directions, we can also now, of course, upgrade it so it's one way, and that's not going to affect any functionality. I'm just going to remove some of those surfaces from around it. We'll kind of maintain that concrete look as we go round. But let's just talk about the buildings that we're going to be putting in here. So as we saw on Google Earth, it's a lot of kind of northeast pack style buildings, the red brick kind of style. So that's what I want to use here. And probably focusing mostly on the commercial assets, which I think would work really nicely. Some of them have got like the awnings out front, a little bit like the buildings that we saw in this space in real life. So yeah, these are definitely the type of style of buildings that I'd want to use here. Now this one I actually really just quite like the vibe of the market stalls on this, so I'm wondering if we can squeeze this in somewhere. Of course it needs a road connection in order to make it functional, which is not ideal. We could place that in here and then potentially add in a really small alleyway road just to connect into it. And we'll sort out the zebra crossings, etc. later on. So I think that's okay, because then into the back of that, we could potentially fuse some of these style of buildings. I literally love all of these assets that it's very difficult to just choose one, to be honest with you. Let's place that one in there. We'll sort out the surfaces, etc. Have no fear. And then let's get the larger asset. And this can cover over some of that red brick. So we could have the entrance door in there. I'm okay with that. And we could piece together one of these next to it, potentially. And now it's about kind of trying to fill this gap, which is going to have to be prop buildings because of the road that we have in there. We could definitely put two of these back to back, which I think will look really nice. So let's have another one of those. And then I think we'll come down to some of these smaller assets up front, and we can kind of fill the space just by piecing them in together like this, which will hopefully build quite a nice eclectic neighbourhood. Now we're obviously going to have to build a road in down here, which is okay. And actually things like that little shed on the back of this one is fairly industrial, which I quite like there. So yeah, it's just about trying to find the assets that fit the vibe that you want and fit the space that you want, and then trying to piece them together ultimately, which is exactly what we're doing here. We'll get rid of this one. And so actually when it comes down to it, this is going to end up quite a vibrant little shopping area with quite a lot going on. So let's just get our pedestrian street in here, if we can squeeze it in between those buildings, which it will fit. And the good thing about all of these streets is we can cover them up with surfaces, so we're not going to have an issue from the point of view of making it look consistent and that sort of thing. And then I think we could probably piece in some industrial buildings into the middle of this. But I did notice, I mean, I'm not going to put this one, but I did notice there were sort of some sections where they've actually got old chutes and things from the old factory involved in this. So I wonder how we could maybe implement some of that. I think we could have a warehouse door in there and that wouldn't look too bad. And then we just need to sort of join these up across the middle here too. So actually I quite like those little stairs coming down there. And that also gives us some industrial doorways at the back this side, so that's not too bad in terms of the placement. We can shift it over a tiny bit. That a little bit better, yes. Yeah. So that gives us a sort of pieced together factory area on the outskirts of the building. Now I know there's bits sort of overlapping roads and things like that, so part of it we're going to have to ignore some cars and pedestrians cutting into buildings. But I think generally it's going to be okay. So just before we come on to talk about the stage detailing and the backstage and everything we're going to do around it, a quick word from today's video sponsor, which is Instant Gaming. If you're looking to pick up any of the Cities 2 content creator packs, including leisure venues, Mediterranean heritage, modern architecture, or even the base game of Cities Skylines II, or indeed a whole host of other games, including Farming Simulator, the whole Sims shebang, Planet Zoo and all of its corresponding DLCs, then head on over to Instant Gaming via the link in the description below to check out what amazing discounts they offer and also help to support the channel. Plus we also host a monthly giveaway for the FewCandy community where you could be in with your chance of winning a game of your choice. So head on over there and bag yourself a deal. Okay, the stage. So obviously we have the easy route, which is to plot this tiny small stage, which just seems ridiculous for this huge open courtyard that we're going to have in this space. So I'm not going to do that, and instead we're going to build our own custom stage, just using base game vanilla props. So what I am going to use for the base of the actual main stage is as always, we seem to use these a lot, the horizontal train pillars. So let's make sure they're not stacking on top of each other, and we're going to place in a few perfectly aligned to create the base of our stage, which I think like that is going to be big enough. And then we've got a little bit of space to do some backstage stuff around the side and to the back of it. And we've got this huge open courtyard which will be used for the crowds. Now to frame the stage, I actually had the idea of using this archway. So let's snap 2 objects so we get on top of our train pillars here. And what we're going to do is snap it in front of it. And we're going to use this for the sort of the canopy of the stage. We're going to place a few of them in. So let's just make sure firstly that it's nicely aligned to our actual stage. We'll place one in at the front, and then we're going to, and this is going to be a little bit tricky to make sure it doesn't snap on top of each other. So let's actually just place one in here. So we're going to grab our second archway and we're going to place it in the middle like this. Now I realise there's tiny little holes in this, but we might have to use our imagination somewhat for that. But that gives us a framing for our stage, and then we can do a backdrop, we can do lighting, we can do all sorts on top of it. So firstly for the backdrop, let's find our French wall, which is just such an invaluable asset, to be honest, for anything that we want to do ever. And we're going to get 2 of these, actually 3 of these potentially, lined up with line tool, like so. And now we're going to grab them and get them into position as the backdrop for our stage. Like that. Now obviously it's big and white and we can't recolour it, which is really unfortunate. So we're going to cover it in billboards to make it look a little bit more realistic. And what I'm looking for here is a huge wall billboard, like this one for example, and I think we are going to go for the record company because why not? So this might be a little bit tricky now that we've got the archways in to fit these in, but let's do our best to piece these together. And now obviously because that looks a little bit weird pieced together like that, we're actually going to find another billboard like this one that we can put on that can kind of be the band backdrop is what I'm thinking for this. And we could even do the one with lights potentially. Yeah, like this one, which will have a nice backdrop to it. So it's sort of like Ashtrain Records is sponsoring Sing Tape, the band, is what I'm going for here. But there's also quite a few other little things that we can add to make this look a little bit more realistic. So if we're going for lights, for example, and you may disagree with me that this looks realistic at all, because maybe it doesn't, but we've got things like traffic lights, which I think work pretty well as kind of on-stage lighting or sound systems and that sort of thing. So we can place in a few of these around, particularly the EU ones I think look pretty good for this. So we can place those around the stage like that. We can even do potentially some larger ones at the side of the stage like this, which sort of overhangs it, which I think, you know, it's starting to get a stage type vibe now, right? A little bit at least, maybe. But then there's also, for the outside of it, which I think just helps to add to the realism of it being a kind of a constructed stage, as it were, these train power poles, which I quite like the sort of look of them. They've got a little bit of a scaffolding vibe to them. I know they've sort of got power connectors on it, but again, if we use our imagination and don't look too closely with these types of things, I think we can add a few of these around the outside, which just help to frame the stage off a little bit. So now when you look at it, I don't think there's any denying that that looks like it should be a stage, at least, as long as you don't look too closely and realise it's traffic lights and all the rest of it. But we've got a nice backdrop, we've got a nice little stage there, and we could also even do some of the little steps up and things using the rooftop props there. But we'll come back to that. But for now, that gives us the vibe, I think, of what we want for our main stage. Now, just looking at the entranceway, because I kind of wanted to recreate that scaffolding look that we saw, but there's not an easy way to do that, shall we say. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the new piers. I'm going to turn snapping off for this to create essentially a bit of an overhead archway type thing. And we're going to make it diagonal. Like, I'm kind of imagining that maybe this was once a chute that was used for the salt factory once upon a time, or that kind of vibe, at least. That's what we want to try and achieve from this. So it's not as grand as the real thing, but it gives us another archway, and then we can pop in another northeast commercial asset, I think, this other side. Potentially one of these ones. Now obviously we got some problems with the props at the back, but that's okay. We can remove those and get rid of those, and that gives us a kind of a reason, I guess, to have a chute there. We could maybe even add some kind of doorways, decals or something over the top of them so it looks like there was a chute there, and we'll definitely remove that light post from it like that. But that gives us a little bit of an entranceway into the arena, at least. And then we can do a kind of a food space out here with the food trucks and that sort of thing. We might have some small bleachers in here potentially, like we saw in the corner. Big concrete surface, backstage area. And then I also think we're going to go ahead and pop in an office space over here. Nothing too special, nothing that you haven't seen before. But let's come on and do that now and get this build finished.
might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too.
So here we have the start of our gentrified area, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. Let's just kick off though by talking about the name, of course. So I have called it Fisher's Point after my Funiverse Elite YouTube member Tony Fisher Tiger Tone. Thank you so much for your crazy support. Gifting tons of memberships to everyone and also obviously supporting at the elite level. I really greatly appreciate it. So this is going to be Fisher's Point out here. This whole point area will be Fisher's Point, and I've also called the oil district Tiger Tone Oil, again, in Tony's honour. So thank you so much, Tony. I hope you like how this area turns out eventually. It's going to be a big project. And if you would like to also support the channel, check out the links in the description below for ways to join YouTube membership or Patreon and gain access to exclusive content, early access, sneak peeks, and a whole load of other benefits. So yes, here we are, and firstly just to note that I did actually sneakily plop some of our lovely block services, so if you haven't got these off PDX mods, it's totally worth it. We have little blocks for different housing, so we can sneak these inside of other assets if we've got prop buildings, for example, to make them sort of semi-functional. I mean, we've got a lot of deathcare problems over here. What's new? Well, the rest of the city seems alright at the moment, but there we go. But yes, we have some high density residential blocks snuck in underneath the stage. We also have a couple in the back of this building, one over here as well. But what that means is that actually there are people actually walking around and cars coming in and out. We do have to ignore them clipping through our, our bleachers here, as you're going to get a live example of, I think, in just a second. There we go. But that's okay, but at least we have people milling about here now and actually stuff kind of happening and going on, which I'm pretty pleased about. Oh, please don't walk into the side of the bleachers. I don't know why they're doing that. But never mind, never mind. So yeah, I'm really pretty pleased with how this little area has turned out actually. We've got our kind of food court bit at the back over here, which I think has been snuck in pretty nicely. We've got some portaloos and a little queuing system, of course. Bins everywhere. We've got our sound and lighting guys booth in the middle here too, which I think works kind of nicely, even though it is in the middle of where the people walk in and out of their house, hidden in the stage. And then of course we've got the stage here, so I haven't really touched this other than adding in some ladders around the side, which I thought was quite a nice effect, so that the crew can climb up onto the stage and up to the lighting fixtures and that sort of thing. Got that on both sides. We've also got this ladder up the back from this platform on the side here. Just tiny little touches that I felt like I needed to do, probably irrelevant. But there we go. I probably should have put a ladder on both of our rail power poles, but never mind, yeah. Really like how the stage has come together in the end. And then the backstage area is pretty simple. There's lots of kind of stuff piled up. I did do this rubble pile. I kind of thought to myself afterwards, maybe it's not quite right. But I saw piles of stuff on Google Earth there, so I sort of followed that. But generally lots of crates and cases, a little seating area I guess for some of the artists back here too. We've obviously got the entrance into the building through the back here as well that I've kept clear. A little bit of trash and stuff that people would want hidden from the rest of the venue. But yeah, I think it's worked pretty nicely. I also did this sort of overgrown pier bit like I saw on Google Earth again. So this footpath is not connected in at both ends, so people shouldn't be walking along it, which is why I thought it was okay for us to cover it up with a few sunken trees in here, make that look nice. And then on this bit I just tidied this up with a few keys around. We've got some overgrown trees kind of supporting, I guess, what the piers are like on the other side, the wharfs should I say, get the correct terminology in. Do have a little road going up there, some extra car parking here, and I've kept all of this pretty simple and pretty open, so I haven't really added in too many props around the rest of the buildings over here. It all kind of just is what it is, nice and clean. I added in some more lights around the streets up here because I thought I'd deleted off the other ones. Let's just do a tiny bit of extra trimming in here. Yeah, they can go. So I've added in my own lights on the side of the street by the actual arts forum here, but it's nice and busy. Like there's people coming and going, so yeah, I'm glad there's some people here at least. It was really busy when everyone was moving in. There was a crowd of people. You may have seen that in the time-lapse. But yeah, a little bit quieter now. But quite a lot of people around. I'll come on to the rest of it because I did actually add in quite a lot. I'm really keen to get some more zoning in to help our budget out a little bit because it's not so great right now. So we need a bit more tax revenue, ultimately, to support that. So in this section, I did put this little office park, which was kind of similar-ish to the office that I saw next to the salt shed on Google Earth. Got this sort of car park design around the side. This big wall, actually, I put it in as well because there's a huge wall next to the salt shed on Google Earth. So that's why I did that there, which I quite like the effect of, actually. It seemed quite tall and big, and I wish it was a red brick wall rather than this, but we'll make do with what we've got. And then, yeah, we've got a few fused offices in here. So this is several office buildings overlapping each other, actually, to give this kind of consistent sort of one complex effect, even though there's lots of different brand names on it, but that's okay. A little turnaround point at the end here again, just something that I saw on Google Earth that I thought I'd take a bit of inspiration from. And then we come on to our amazing Northeast USA mixed use assets here, which I love. I felt like this had a bit of a gentrification vibe, like it could have been an old brick factory that's sort of been done up a little bit. Obviously shops underneath, homes on the top. We've got these amazing grass roofs as well, which I absolutely love on these assets. We've also got another Northeast mixed use over here, just to support that. That's a slightly more modern building. So I'm kind of imagining, and particularly when looking around Google Earth, places like Salford Quays, for example, in Manchester in the UK, it's another great example of this type of development. There's a bunch of sort of the older buildings that have been repurposed, mixed in with more modern buildings. So that's the effect that I wanted to go for here. Again, just pretty extensive car park designs. I actually decided to extend out the vanilla plot car park asset here. But I really am struggling with the ploppable car park assets because of the fact that the car parking spaces just disappear constantly, which I find incredibly annoying. So I am preferring domes car parking, or indeed the car parking roads, the alleyway roads with parking lots on them, over the actual plopped parking assets. Because of that, we just can't seem to detail over them and keep the spaces visible. But anyway, I'll stop moaning here. And then we've got this little waterfront park in the middle here, which I thought was a reasonably nice use of space. We've kept these old kind of harbour, or I don't know what you call it, with the rocks and the stones, sort of keep wall in here. It's nice to see actually some people using this park. That's great. We've even got people using the curvy path at the bottom here, which is definitely not the quickest route to your destination. So, yeah, there we go. But yeah, just kept that pretty simple, open, grass, benches. Didn't want to go for the manicured lawn look. I just thought a sort of more natural grass look would be appropriate there. And then we've got this fountain plaza in the middle, which I thought went quite well with the roundabout design we have here too. And then we come on to, and I forgot to record the section where I put these buildings in, apologies, but we have got more northeast mixed use in here. Now, these are a couple of assets put back to back. So the same asset put back to back here, which I thought just made quite nice sort of blocks that you could imagine could have been old factories. So this one's actually 3. I've just noticed it's so not straight, but yeah, I think it fits in with the roads, which aren't quite straight either. So maybe I'll fiddle with that, but it's okay for now. Yeah, 3 blocks put in there, which just creates these sort of old blocks, which I could imagine could have been factories once upon a time, have been repurposed into housing with shops on the bottom there. So yeah, I thought that was quite nice. I didn't show a lot of this because, to be honest, there's not much sort of new stuff in here. There's very minimal detailing, apart from sort of adding in curves and sorting out some of the surfaces and the parking. I haven't really done too much with this area, particularly these blocks over here. So these are actually Southwest Pack mixed use buildings here, which again is just a modern development filling this space. Not too much to say here other than a few little car park designs added in, again with some curb detailing, some street trees, that sort of thing. And then I have sneakily plopped in a few car parks under here, but we need to come back and sort this out and detail this properly. I think I would quite like to have some major large car parking lot. It's obviously getting used with these houses in here, so I think that would be kind of good to have under there, but we'll want to do it with domes and reorganise it properly around the different highway pillars and the railway pillars underneath there. So I think that'll be pretty cool, potentially a little stream job for some point. But yeah, that was pretty much it. So we are going to continue on this sort of vibe as we come on here. Next episode, I'm actually going to be putting in quite a bit of a larger harbour area with a lot of housing around it. And also we're going to be introducing trams as well. So I would love to get trams across this part of the city, probably bridging over from the other side of the old harbours over there to meet up with this side as well, so that we've got another point of access to it, because I think the traffic going around some of these roads, once we've built this all out with some reasonably high density housing as well, I think it's going to be pretty mega. So having another bridge and a point of access will be quite important in the long run. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. Come and join our Discord if you want to have some extra chat with the community or ask for advice or share your cities. We love to see that. And don't forget to check out Instant Gaming for all of your gaming needs, which also helps to support the channel. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.